Hi everybody, we're going to have a look at chain stitch. So I think it must be called chain stitch because when you put a few of them together it does resemble a chain, as you can see. But it doesn't have to be used this way. There are many ways to use this lovely stitch. Let's have a look. That was a line or a chain of stitches. I'm just anchoring off now. There we go. And let's have a look now at how else you can use this stitch. In this instance, rather than following onto the next stitch, I'm anchoring it there and then back to where I started. And I'm just going to do another. I'll probably do 3 or 4. I could do a full daisy by going round in a circle, but it's just to show you how we do that. Now pretty soon we're going to walk through how to do this stitch in detail, but this is just to show you some of the ways it can be used at the moment. It can really be quite useful. I'm liking this. This is sort of a flower head. It doesn't need much more than that, really. Yep. What else could it be? It could be a bee's wings. It could be a raindrop. It's all about the shape it is and how you perceive that you can use it. I'm just going to put a stem here by doing one long stitch, and maybe I'll do a stitch off to each side, and that will be like the leaves. So pretty easy, and we've created a lovely little flower. Another leaf here off to the other side. See how I turn the fabric rather than get myself all twisted around? It makes it so much easier on yourself. So now we're going to have a look at the mechanics of this stitch. I've loaded up a different colour, up from underneath, needle down in virtually the same spot, and see how I brought the needle up and holding the thread out of the way has managed to create this loop. And now a little anchoring stitch just there. Now if I was to do another one underneath, it would be a chain, but we're doing random now. We're doing detached chain. So up from underneath. Then holding the thread with my thumb, I put it back in nearly the same spot, do a small stitch, pull it up and let that thread be trapped there like that, and then down again. So very useful, but there are still more variations. We can do this. I might do a nice long one. We've accidentally twisted the thread there, but I'm actually going to go with it because I like it. And maybe a long stitch instead of anchoring it short. We did a long stitch and it looks like seed heads or plants or tulips or something. It's bulrushes. Very interesting. And now here I'm not going to go quite so close. I'm going to put the needle in slightly further away from where I started. So there's a bit of a gap. And then a long one again. So that's shown you 3 different ones there from that same thing. And it's just added a bit of variation. Looks good. There. And this was the original, how we just did that small one there. Well, that's a slightly larger one. But you can see how you could use it. It could be leaves on trees. It could be the segments in a slice of orange. It could be a lot of things. It's very, very easy to imagine how you could use it. And here I've just grabbed a little bit of wool that I've teased out, and I've just popped it there, and I've thought, well, we could easily just do a few more stitches on that, and we've got a lovely little landscape. Tiny, but effective. Okay, so I've grabbed a little piece of green fabric, a nice mottled Balinese kind of fabric that gives you that variation in tone. I've cut a basic leaf shape, and I have just popped it onto a white background, and now I'm loading up some yellowy gold colour, and look at how I'm using it down the center line of this stem at the same time as I'm applying it, attaching it to the background. I'm doing this lovely thicker line that really shows up down the center line of the leaf. Now I could have just done a long stitch or something, but it wouldn't have had the same impact as this lovely thicker line. There we go. Very effective. Now at this stage, I've grabbed a different colour, and I'm going to try some of the detached chain that we've practiced earlier, just to look, I don't know, just to add something, a bit of colour. It's a little bland at the moment, so here comes an orange colour, and I think we'll do a little bit of detached chain to anchor it down at the same time as we're adding colour. But maybe this is a skeleton leaf that's sitting on top of the other. But it works very well for holding pieces down, especially if you're not washing something. If you were washing a piece of clothing or something, you want to be anchoring things down so much more thoroughly, because it would need to be able to stand the wash. But if you were just doing a picture, well, you can do what you like. And here I'm not wanting to have things quite so perfectly sewn down, so I can just afford to just do a decorative stitch to just tack it down. It really hasn't shown up that well on the green for you to see, although I can tell you that it has lightened up that dark green colour. But you can see better here off to the side on the white fabric how lovely it looks. Very effective. What we're going to look at now is one of my impressionistic kind of pieces, and I've just gotten white and a lemon yellow there, and randomly put in some detached chain, and it looks like petals of flowers, or really whatever your imagination wants it to be, but it certainly did lighten that work up. Here I've got a fabric collage. I do have a few speckled areas of detached chain above, but this lovely line of chain stitch in a spiral that leads your eye to another area. I think that's very effective, especially in that metallic thread. And here I'm just using some white on a previous piece I'd done, and it's in silk paper and fabric and paper, and it has all kinds of interesting textures in it, which makes it quite organic. I'm just doing a random kind of cluster of these stitches, and it could be a flower, it could be lichen, it could be a lot of things. I'm not really too worried about it being a perfect daisy. I'm not doing a field of daisies, so it really doesn't matter. But it just makes an interesting shape. Once you start looking at things for their shape, you can picture all different kinds of ways to use these stitches. So you may be able to see here I've used detached chain, and I've used it randomly here, there and everywhere. I've used a few French knots as well, but I like that it's just a suggestion of maybe flowers or something in that foreground. So as we head up, I think like this section here looks more like it's a cluster of flowers or a cluster of something popping up out of the earth. This is a different work I have, and it is a pond. It has some lovely lily pads, and it has these trailing lines of detached chain, a few beads, a few sequins, but it just draws your eye. See how it trails along in between and around and over, and it just takes your eye through the work. So it's really good for that. There's a lovely dragonfly in there, but I really like this work, and it has different thicknesses of thread and different. See that? There's a real thick wool and some thinner ones, and the colors reflect the colors that are in the fabric. It really brings it together. It's like, what could it be? It could be the flotsam and jetsam that are on the pond. You know, maybe it's the broken bits of leaves or bubbles or the leaves and twigs and things that get stuck on a pond. Now here we're looking at a piece of tapestry, a random tapestry work that is using interesting stitches with interesting novelty threads. On your right you can see the purple detached chain. It just, you know, it's wonderfully textural. So there we are. I hope you've gotten something out of this little video. My name's Tracy from Art Fibre Stitch. If you like this little video, please do press like and subscribe if you're interested to see more. Anything else, and just check the links below. Thanks again.